Let us help you reach your peak in retirement. It's time for Retirement Elevated with Sean Lee.
Hey everybody, welcome into the podcast. It's Retirement Elevated with Sean Lee and myself. Going to talk about retirement, investing, finance, all that good stuff, and gambling, because this one's on the house. That's the topic of this week's podcast. I guess not actually gambling, but what we're going to do is, that's that saying, Sean, where this one's on the house or whatever the case, or drinking, I suppose, right?
Right.
Going to get a free drink on the house, but we're really going to be talking about the actual house and some financial stuff related to our homestead. But what's going on, my friend? How you doing?
We're doing well, man. Kids are back in school. They're just plugging away, and activities are keeping us busy still. It seems like it's a never-ending revolving door of sports.
Exactly. Yeah, at that age, that's for sure. It's always something going on. Well, you guys are going a little hiking here this weekend, I think, right? Time we're taping this, so very cool.
Yeah, we're going to head down to Escalante for a little bit, and I decided my new venture with my daughter, she's playing volleyball, so nobody else would sign up to be the coach, so I'm the Ted Lasso of 7th grade girls volleyball, if you know what I'm talking about.
Fantastic. Yeah. So if you haven't seen that show, it's a pretty funny show. All right. Well, cool. Well, so let's get into this conversation here. You got many, many years of experience here, Sean, and you've likely had at least one client that fits into one of these scenarios I've got for us. We'll try to get through as many as we can on how to handle the house as a financial asset. So, I'll go through a couple of these scenarios. You tell me what you think about it, okay? So somebody who is considering downsizing to the smaller home just simply because the kids are grown and gone and, the house is maybe just too big.
This right now in today's housing market, this is kind of wild. I mean, especially here in Utah, we're seeing astronomical house prices. We're seeing people move in, from out of state and constantly moving into this state, which is a good thing economically. I mean, unemployment here is ridiculously low, but that's a double-edged sword. And so, yes, we can sell our houses for a whole bunch of money.
You may be paying a bunch for the new one, but even a smaller one, right?
And that's the thing. Like, you're usually offsetting it. But when you look at considering downsizing, I think there are a number of factors that go into it. Obviously the size of the home is one thing. Do we need all of the space that we currently have? I look at our house and I look at our kids there, and I look when they're gone. Like there's no reason for us to have the size of the house that we have when our kids are gone.
Right.
But you flip side that as well. Are you selling your home to go into a smaller home that you can wipe out a mortgage, so you don't have you no longer have debt? That's going to free up more cash flow. That's the financial side to it. The emotional side is, well, how are the kids going to feel? How are you going to feel? You've built memories in a home, and that's where you raise the family. Is that, are you going to be okay kind of moving away from that? But the flip side to that I don't think that a lot of people think about is really the upkeep. If you've got an acre of ground or a half acre or whatever it may be, and you've got a yard to take care of, and your house is a little bit older, you got to fix things around the house, or maybe you got to replace the roof or replace carpets or floors or update things. All of that costs time, energy, and effort. And so, do you really have primarily the energy and effort to want to upkeep the yard, continue to mow the lawns, weed, and if you have a garden, take care of that. All of that goes into account. Just the upkeep, and I think that's the biggest factor. Is at some point I hear a lot, Sean, I just don't want to do it anymore.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then maybe it's time to make an adjustment.
Well, and I think for to that point too, a lot of times people, if they do want to stay there, they start thinking about, well, we have to age-proof the house, so to speak, right?
Right.
Where we're thinking about, okay, well, how do we go about making the changes we need to make the house safer for us as we age, and so on and so forth, up and down stairs or whatever that looks like. So, yeah, that's one certain argument that people kind of find themselves getting into on the whole conversation of downsizing. Another one might be, and I just saw an email question a couple of weeks ago for somebody had sent one in that said, it's basically along the lines of, you've got the money to pay off the house, Sean, but you're trying to decide if it's actually the best financial decision. People get really, really stuck in this. Well, I got the money. It's there. I'd like to pay it off because I want that feel-good thing of saying, ha, the house is paid for. But does that make the most sense financially? Are you draining too much of any other accounts to do that?
A lot of this one is a personal preference. I've got families that we work with that say, Sean, I'm never paying my house off. All right, cool. That's fine as long as your cash flow can offset can cover the mortgage, right? It's not stressing you out from a monthly income perspective to have that mortgage. But on the flip side of that, we've got families that are like, hey, I want the house paid off as quick as possible. What do we need to do? How can we get there? And each side is right. You just got to do what's right for you. But now when we start to look at, I have a mortgage, I have money in the bank, should I pay the house off with the money that I have in the bank? In essence, kind of the way that I look at that is twofold. One, if you have the money in the bank, your house is essentially paid off. You could at the drop of a hat pay that off at any given time that you want. So
right.
I look at it like, hey, yeah, it is paid off because you could do that if you so chose to. The second side to that is, it's an interest discussion. Are you paying 4% in interest because you never refinanced? Or are you paying 2.3% in interest? Or are you paying the interest is so nominal because you've paid the mortgage down? But from my standpoint, I kind of like the flexibility of the cash. Just my own personal opinion, because if something did happen, it's easier for me to get, and I needed a lump sum of money, it's easier for me to get the cash from my bank account than having to pull it out of my home.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Unless you're going to go, ripping the copper out or something, right?
Right.
Not a good way to go.
Right.
Vacation homes. All right. So obviously with the housing prices being what they are right now, maybe this has come down a little bit over the last 12 months, 18 months, something like that. But, a lot of people do think about a vacation home as, maybe that thing they've always wanted, right? So they want to do, their summers in Utah and they want to do their winters in Florida, or whatever that case looks
right.
like. What's the best way to go about paying for it? Do you try to have multiple mortgages? Are you trying to take money out of a 401k or, things like that?
I wouldn't recommend pulling a whole bunch of money out of the 401k or IRAs to pay for a vacation property. Just simple fact that in order to do that, you're going to have a whole lot of taxes and you're probably going to lose, 40 cents on every dollar due to taxation. But, once again, on the vacation home side, if you've got after tax money that's just sitting there that you're like, you know what, we think that it's better to put it into a property that we can enjoy and it doesn't completely deteriorate your savings. Paying cash for a home is a good idea. The other side to that is just figuring out, all right, if we were to go buy a vacation home in our plan, say I need, to do our everyday living, we need $6,000 a month, whatever that may be. And you've got Social Security coming in, some income from other investments, but you've got this chunk of investments that you're not really using. Mm-hmm. Turn that into a little bit of an income stream and pay a mortgage.
Right.
So as long as the plan, I want people in retirement to live their lives and to be comfortable and have fun and do the things that they want to do. And as long as your plan can handle doing those things, I'm all for it. But we have to make sure that the plan can handle it, whether it's a lump sum distribution or it's a monthly increase of income to cover those costs.
Yeah. Now, since we're talking about, a vacation home or whatever the case might be there, Sean, do you have clients that have decided to move out of state? You kind of mentioned that a little bit earlier, and you're still helping or working with them. How do you kind of go through that scenario? Because obviously there's going to be different states have different rules and so on and so forth.
If a lot of people we work with move down to Nevada,
okay,
have primary residences in Nevada,
income
Florida.
tax.
Yeah, it's all state tax driven, right? There's no state tax in Nevada, Wyoming, and Florida. Utah's is fairly low, but a lot of people want to get out of the cold of the winters. I mean, we've had pretty mild winters recently.
but one's coming, right?
I really hope so. Not that I hate the winter, but we just need the water. And when we start to look at moving out of state, it's a multiple pronged approach. Like, yes, could we move out of state to go to a warm climate, reduce our state taxes, and so on? In a lot of cases, it's, hey, our kids moved up to Washington. We want to be close to the grandkids. And, well, the plan has to adjust because the cost of living is more. State taxes are a little bit more. So there's both sides to the table. I'm going to move to be close to the kids regardless of what the financials look like there, whether it's increased cost of living, state taxes, whatever.
Right.
Or I'm going to move somewhere that I want to be comfortable, where it's warm or whatever it may be. Or they just, they snowbird it. There's families that we work with that go to St. George in the wintertime and are back here in the summertime.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it, right? So it's just a matter, and that was kind of like that vacation home, or maybe you just two, I don't know if you're considering that or considering just having two homes, but either way, you have to understand all the little nuances because every state's going to be different. And so what you want to do with the house, whether it's one house, two houses, downsizing, whatever the case is, all those things kind of pull and play. You kind of touched on my next one, so I'm going to skip on past that one. It was basically a lot of the headaches of home ownership. You kind of went through some of that. The final one, what about do you have people come to you and say, hey, we're thinking about selling the house because we want to move into like a retirement community. We want to move into something that kind of addresses the headache situation, right? They go into a place where, kind of everything's handled for them. And they, whether it's a Florida retirement community or there's lots of other places. There's one here locally that my mom's been eyeballing, and maybe that's something that's on the radar.
Yeah, I mean, whether it's a condo or a patio home or whatever it may be, that the yards are taken care of. If you're looking at like those residential condo communities, a lot of those are age in place type scenarios where you kind of go live in these communities, and then you can actually transition into more of assisted living if you need it, and then nursing care, whatever it may be. A lot of that comes down to cost. Again, if you're selling a property, there's a cost associated with living in a community like that. You've got rents. Some of them out here I know have big lump sums that you have to deposit in that supposedly you get back. But there are certain financial factors that you have to take into account. Yes, the headache's gone of all the yard work and all the maintenance and things like that. But there's a financial component that maybe if your home's paid off, now you're going into a scenario where you've got to pay monthly dues and things like that. Once again, it just comes down to, can your plan handle that financially? Can you continue to live and be comfortable and do the things that you want to do when you make that move into a new living situation?
Also, I imagine those can get a little more pricey, right? So there's a lot of times you'll hear them referred to as a CCRC, a continuing care retirement community.
Right.
And I imagine, they're not cheap.
Right. I mean, you're looking a couple $1,000 a month to as high as $9,000 a month from what I've seen out there if you need a lot of care.
Right.
You got to be able to pay for that somehow.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a great option for folks who might need that extra step, or as to your point, they're okay early on and they don't need the extra services that are offered. They're just, it's really just about the apartment or the condo and, some of the minor upkeep things. But then as we're aging, then you can start to kind of get some of the assisted living, and it's all right there. So yeah, you've got to plan, you got to budget for all this stuff. So whatever your choice is to do with the house, it all comes back to having a good plan in place and a strategy for what that's going to look like. Are you staying where you're at? If you are, do you need to do some renovations and upgrades to make it more, user-friendly as we age, things of that nature? When we picked our house, Sean, that we live in, that we plan on passing away in, we made sure that everything we needed was on the first floor, right? There is an upstairs, but we hardly ever go up there,
right.
So it's one of those things we won't have to go up there as we age. But to your point, we've also got a big yard, so I'll have to make sure I'm planning and budgeting for someone to come out and help me with yard maintenance at some point. So all those things factor in, folks. Just make sure that you're talking with your advisor and about your wishes, your wants, your desires, and then how to make that happen with a good plan. And that's where the team comes in at Elevated Retirement Group, Sean and everybody over there. So give them a jingle if you got some questions at 855-50-RETIRE. That's 855-50-RETIRE. Or stop by the website, elevatemyretirement.com. That's elevatemyretirement.com. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on Apple or Google or Spotify or whatever platform you like to use. Catch up with Sean and I from time to time. You can catch past episodes as well as future episodes of Retirement Elevated. All right, my friend, I'm going to let you get out of here. Go have fun. Go do some hiking. Be safe. And all that good stuff. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, man. Talk to you soon.
We appreciate your time as always here on Retirement Elevated with Sean Lee, managing partner at Elevated Retirement Group. We'll talk to you later.
Investment advisory services offered through Elevated Capital Advisors, LLC, and SEC registered investment advisor.